education of the past failed us. Because birds and bees, they don't fuck. Welcome to Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, a podcast where we learn exactly how bad our formative sex education, or lack thereof, really was. I'm your host, Arielle. I'm a producer, intimacy coordinator, and sex educator. And my guest today is a writer and comedian who I met doing stand-up in a sex shop. Welcome to the show, Ellington Wells! Yay!
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. I saw you at the Pleasure Test in Eli's show called Performance Anxiety, which is such a great name for that show. And I saw you and I was like, oh, I want her on my show. And I didn't even start the show yet. So I asked you before I even recorded anything. So thank you for being willing to do something before you even knew what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah, before you knew.
Before I knew. Yeah. Because what we were just saying is that this has turned out to be like kind of a religious podcast. But I mean, it kind of makes sense because sex and religion are so intrinsically tied for so many people. And it's where we learn so much stuff, but it's been really interesting how many episodes have really been like, well, let me tell you about this shit growing up.
They're like, well, we can't really get into it until we, talk about what kind of religion was going on in my life growing up, that sort of thing.
Yeah. A lot of people have grown up in evangelical churches, which like, hey, maybe there's like a connection between people who do comedy and evangelical, upbringings. I don't know.
That would be front page news.
Yeah.
I think if there was actually a coordination between those two things, they would like, we need to study this.
I know. I'm like, am I doing my own weird study? Maybe. But where did you grow up?
Well, I'm from Vermont originally. That's where I was born. And I moved around a little bit. So like I've lived a bunch of different places. But basically Vermont and then Connecticut.
Ah, okay.
Before like college and stuff.
Yeah. Where in Connecticut? I grew up in New York.
In Hamden.
Oh, I didn't
it's
know
right
that.
next
Is that like
to New
North?
Haven.
Ah, okay.
No,
I know where that is. Yeah. Wow. So that was that very different, those two places? Or how old were you in those two different places?
I was in Vermont until I was maybe 12.
Okay.
And then I moved to Connecticut, and then I did like middle school and high school in
Connecticut. Yeah. Did you wind up getting any sex education in Vermont? Because that's like generally, I think, right around the time that a lot of people start to get it.
We did a little bit. I was trying to think about this because I was like, do I have any memories of sex education? Because they're not like, I don't know if they're formative to me.
Yeah.
So because I don't know. But maybe I missed it. It's possible that like they did it before and then they were going to do it after. And like, I don't know. I guess I had health. in high school, but I really didn't have like, come on, then come up here.
Exactly. Then just come up here. See, every time she's got to make her presence known.
Yeah.
Just don't fuck anything up, girl. Go, shoot, goodbye. Go get your food.
But no, I guess we did a little bit in elementary school when I was in Vermont, but, and then my dad studied anatomy in school, and he would always threaten to come in and teach sex ed.
Oh my gosh, really?
Like, if you're bad, I'll come into your school and I will teach sex ed to all of the students.
That's hilarious. What a threat.
Yeah, it worked. I was like, you please don't do that
in here. A, I don't want my dad in my school. B, I don't want my dad talking about sex in my school.
Yeah. Which is so funny because I'm like, never got the talk.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like, did you want to teach me? No.
He just wanted to have that as like a warning.
Yeah, no, it was like, yeah.
That is so representative though of how parents will they'll avoid it with their own kids, but yet they could talk about it to like maybe a group of strange kids or something like that, because there's that disconnect. It's not my kid. And it's really interesting how even with the child to parent and parent to child, like how much we erase the humanity of A, the people that brought us into the world, or B, the people that we brought into the world through sex. Like, it's really interesting, that like you could talk about it. I mean, listen, a lot of people can't talk about it to anybody, but there are definitely plenty of people who, as soon as they think about their kid or their parent, and they're like, oh my God, ew. But it's like, well, how do you think you got here? How do you think you made these kids?
I actually was talking to a friend recently, and she was like, I know logically that I came from my parents having sex, but she was like, I don't think it ever happened again. She was like, it might have happened the 3 times my siblings were conceived, but truly, I cannot imagine it ever having happened again.
Yeah.
Like, in her household, like, they just like are not. She's like, I've seen them hug once. There's no way they're getting all the way. They're going all the way.
Nobody's getting railed in that house.
I know. And I kind of feel similarly, although I think that my parents, whatever, I want to bring them into this. And but I do also feel like they're not, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, it probably does. I'm like, I mean, maybe just I would feel more comfortable if they didn't.
Yeah. Like, which is so interesting.
Please don't make it seem like you are.
Yeah. And
keep that to yourself.
Thanks. I mean, because obviously I'm in this world, I'm the opposite. I'm like, well, I don't really know that they are, but I hope they are, man. I hope that they're not, because so many people their age don't, but like, sexuality throughout your age and throughout your life, it changes with every phase. So the things that you liked and that you were engaging in your 20s is different from your 30s and 40s and 50s. Yeah. And there's a whole world of pleasure that's accessible to you as you get older, especially in your 60s and 70s and, even later. And we have this idea that like people just stop having sex, but you don't need to. And there are so many different ways to experience pleasure in your body and sensuality. But I think it's so much that like our culture is like, ew, gross, old people sex. Blech.
I've actually never thought that old people stopped having sex, because everyone's always talking about how much sex old people are having
in group homes. Yeah.
But I do think that like married couples stop having sex. They're maybe having sex with other people.
Yeah.
Or like in the group homes, they're having group sex or something. I don't know what's going on in there.
They be fucking out there. It's
not okay what's going on in there, but
only because they're not doing it with protection and STIs spread around. That's the thing, because they're like, well, we can't get pregnant, but like, okay, but everyone has gonorrhea. So,
and also when you get older, if you get a UTI, it can make you go crazy.
Yeah.
My dad actually did tell me that very recently.
Wow.
I was like,
what does your dad do?
Thanks. He is a science teacher at a high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense that he would be inclined to teach sex ed. Did he ever teach sex ed?
I don't think so.
Well, not to you.
Not to me. I have younger half brothers, and he teaches at their school.
Uh-huh.
And
oh no, Ruby. We're okay. Ruby. I just had to throw her off, but we're still recording, so we're good. One day she's going to cancel it.
She's going to be like, start again.
Yeah, exactly. Do over. Back to 1. Sorry.
I think I don't know if he's done it for them.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. Oh, God, so embarrassing.
Do you feel like you'd be a good teacher at sex ed? Have you?
Me?
No, him. Like, well, have you ever taken any of his classes? Like, were you in the school? Okay, so he was always teaching at a different school.
Yeah,
that's
Yale.
Nice.
Ever heard of it?
Oh, little place
he was
called
a little
Yale.
busy teaching at Yale, so
no big deal.
What he's doing?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yo, dad's smart.
Yeah, he's a neuroscientist, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, he really is smart. He says that any intelligence I have is inherited.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
there's truth to that. There's truth to that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's interesting. Genetics are so interesting. Epigenetics are fucked, but genetics are interesting. So what do you, if anything, like what came up when you were thinking about like what sex ed did I even get?
Well, I actually, one memory that I have is that my mom, when my parents let me go to Paris with just two other kids my age, my best friend and her boyfriend at the time, who was my ex-boyfriend.
Ooh, juicy.
Spicy. It was a really, really bad trip and I regret it.
Oh boy.
No, being in Paris was awesome. Being with them was hard. But before I went on that trip, my mom was like, suddenly, I was already 16, 17.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, so if an Italian man wants to have sex with you, just use protection no matter what they say. And I was like, what if he's French? So this is like a personal story you're telling me?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm not even going to be in Italy. She's like, just use protection no matter what that Italian man said. I'm like, what are you saying?
Beware the Italians is what she's saying.
I was like,
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So that's like the one piece of, and then that's it. And then I think what I actually think was happening was mostly to me is that my parents were trying to like they would like sit me down and I would think I was going to get the talk and they'd be like, are you gay? They're like, it's okay if you are. And I was like, no.
We just want to know.
And I was like, no. They're like, you wear Jack Skellington ties to school. You wear rainbow toe socks to school.
Oh my God.
You're a gay. And I was like, no, I'm not.
I just like the styles.
No, I'm not.
Oh, that's so funny. Were you like, what was that like for you? Were you upset or were you like, just like, that's
not
my parents, they don't know.
Education.
Well, no, with your parents sitting you down and being like, you're gay, right? And you're like, no?
It didn't really feel, I was just like, no, I'm just not.
Yeah.
I would tell you if I was, but I'm not. I love men. They're like, you never bring any of them around. I'm like, well, they're not anywhere to be found. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I just was. So I'm like, I'm like, I like men and women, I guess. I think. Who knows? Yeah. I really have no idea what's going on with me still to this day as a full adult. But I think because I had some interest sexually in men, I just was like, well, that must just be it.
Mm-hmm.
And like whatever I'm feeling about women is just, an interest that's like the way I was like, just like, yeah, like women are beautiful. I'm sexually attracted to them, but like I'm also sexually attracted to men. So like probably I'm straight. And I just like figured that was the case.
Yeah. I mean, what other blueprint did you even have otherwise that would even tell you, hey, you might be attracted to all bodies, just depending on who's carrying it, you know? Like we really, especially growing up, now it's a lot different, but like we didn't have, I don't know that I have a single example of someone who is bi or pan or anything growing up. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And it was either like you were straight or like eventually Ellen came out and that was like, there's a lesbian.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a lot of like, I knew gay people.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my like very close friends when I was in high school was like bi and she was talking about it and she was like dated a girl and then she dated boys. And it was like, I was such a late bloomer sexually that I think like nothing was really, there wasn't just like enough.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like, I don't really want to do anything with anyone. So it was just like, it wasn't happening. I was like, too anxious. No thanks.
You didn't have to make a choice.
Too scary. Yeah, I wasn't really hooking up with it. I wasn't like having sex with a bunch of guys being like, yeah, this is what I like. I was just like not having sex with anyone and being like, this is what is fine for now. I was very horny, but I wasn't doing anything. I was just like, I can't.
I don't want to deal with this shit.
So scary.
It is so scary. Yeah, I don't know that we acknowledge that enough, especially because, so you said late bloomer, but that's like so much of this is just like society putting on this bullshit because what even is a late bloomer? Like what is an early bloomer? Definitely there's early. But like what's the time? Like there's no, what's the timeline here? Like we shouldn't, I think my point is more of like, we shouldn't be shaming people who choose not to have sex or engage in sexual experiences until their 20s or even 30s. Like if you're not feeling it, don't fucking do it. And if it's making you anxious,
no, really,
like
if you're not feeling it,
don't do it.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are saying different stuff out there, but if you're not feeling it,
100%
don't do it.
Yeah.
I think that I wish I had waited. Well, I waited a pretty long time. I actually waited long enough.
Yeah.
I was glad that I did. I really felt like, especially being female bodied, having sex with men at first, I'm glad that I had built up a lot more sense of who I was and what I wanted from the world and how I wanted to be in the world before I started having sex, because it really knocks you down a few pegs.
It fucks with your head.
It really changes
and your
the
body.
chemistry.
Like it does. Yeah. Well, like your pH balance. Hello. Like that is very much a thing. I know when I was younger, and a lot of this had to do with my diet as well, which I didn't figure out until I got into health coaching in my late 20s. And I would get UTIs and yeast infections like it was nobody's fucking business.
Yeah.
It was like every time I had sex, some shit was going down and it wasn't going to be good.
Yeah, I had UTIs in college when I finally started having sex. Like I got one and then I got another one, and then it was just like a year of like I'm gonna, or more.
Oh yeah.
Of like I'm gonna be getting a UTI. It was years.
Me too.
And then I went a year without getting one, and then it was like kind of like a reset. It was like if you can, like, as long as you can push it to not get another one, because you're so sensitive to them. Once you've gotten two, you're like 100% likely to get another one.
Yeah, your body's just like, let's go.
It's like, we do this, we get these.
Bacteria, what's up? Yeah, I remember, I mean, I used to get them everywhere all the time. And I did get one when I went to Italy and had sex with an Italian man.
So mom was right.
Mom was right. My mom didn't tell me that lesson, but now I know.
Yeah.
But I was walking.
Use protection.
Yes, use protection. Absolutely. It was really funny though, because at one point I looked up and I was like, I'm fucking the David. This is hilarious. He was one of those like really like quintessential.
That sounds good.
It was great. It was fucking great. It was like New Year's morning, not even New Year's Day, not even New Year's night. It was like after New Year's night at like 7 a.m. It was wild. It was wonderful.
One thing I just found out recently is that I can have sex with hot people.
Yeah. Elaborate.
I did not know that.
Did you just think that they weren't accessible to you, or like what's that about?
I don't know. I just was like, I don't do that.
Oh yeah.
I think I just come up with rules in my head.
Yeah.
Or I was like, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I wouldn't like that. Well, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's
actually.
okay.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
I think I want to be the hot one.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And I didn't realize you can both be hot. I was like, no, one's not as hot. That's the vibe. Is like, I want to be the really hot one so that I feel calm. This is a whole other thing about vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Like, I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
I just didn't.
Protection.
Yeah. I was like not doing anything vulnerable to myself, or like putting myself out there in any real way. I was waiting for someone to be completely obsessed with me. And then I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then, that doesn't work out. So I've like just recently, I'm like, okay, someone I go after.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. And honestly, I might go back the other way.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, for some people, that is the thing. Like, you're just like, I just want someone to be like super obsessed with me. And like, we do have to be mindful of that and make sure that we are still reciprocating. And it is a relationship that's conducive to both sides, because some people are like, I want to give everyone everything to someone else. Like it's really so much about finding the right balance for each individual and playing within that balance and checking in and making sure that everyone's happy. Like for me, if someone's like super obsessed with me, I'm like, I don't like that. Even though I'm a Leo, you would think that like a Leo wants to be obsessed over.
You would think that.
I have so much Virgo in me that I'm like, that doesn't make any logical sense. I don't want any part of that.
What's your moon sign?
It's a Virgo. And my Venus. My Venus is in Virgo in retrograde. So that's why I'm like real picky when it comes to dating and sex and relationships.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they could be in retrograde.
So Venus is in retrograde right now, actually. It's in Leo in retrograde, I think.
Oh, I know Venus, like everyone online.
Yeah.
Anyone who has a phone knows that Venus goes in retrograde. Okay, but I didn't know like your Venus sign could be something that is in retrograde.
Yes.
You mean it's in retrograde right now, or like you were born and
both.
it was in retrograde?
So it is right now in retrograde.
Both?
Yeah.
You poor thing. I'm so sorry for you. No.
I'm just going to be sitting in a box by myself being like, no.
That's so sad.
Yeah, when I was born, Venus was in retrograde in the sky in the sign of Virgo, which is only like 7% of the population.
Okay.
And so Venuses in Virgo tend to already be like super discerning and it's just really hard for us to be coupled and partnered. But then apparently people with Venuses in retrograde, it's even harder. Like you probably won't get coupled. Like if you're going to be partnered at all, it probably doesn't happen until like way later in life. So I'm like, but here's the thing about astrology and why I think it's such a great tool. When I learned that, I had already, like I was in my I was like well into my 30s when I learned this. Okay. And so I had an entire lifetime of experience to be like, oh my God, this fucking makes sense.
You're like,
this
thank
feeling
God
that I've always had.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like as a lot of people want to poo-poo on astrology and everything like that, but it's just another tool for understanding yourself, the same as therapy, the same as, any of these practices that you're just going into to be like, how can I move better in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it definitely
forgive myself.
Yeah.
How could I possibly forgive myself for the way that things are going for me?
So hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But astrology helps me.
Yeah.
Especially Virgos.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is just the way it is.
Let me organize these thoughts real quick.
Yeah.
Can you hang tight while I organize my emotions in PowerPoint?
Letting that go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Virgo moon. Yeah. No, I think that's, yeah. Anyway, my Venus is in Gemini. Not that you asked.
Ooh, I want to know though.
And that's just so chaotic.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of being picky. It's
like,
maybe, kind of. I like you. I don't. I do. But I don't. But I will. But I don't right now. But I did in the past.
Oh, that's interesting. Also, I wonder what the correlation between bi or sexually fluid or pan people and Gemini. I feel like I've heard that before.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a correlation.
Yeah.
My astrologer's like, no, there's no way you're doing something normal.
Yeah.
You're not normal. Sorry.
Well,
but like, there's no way you're doing something. There's like, she's just like, you could do any of the things.
Yeah.
You probably are going to move through, like you were saying, like being into a lot of different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How fun. Do you feel like that gives
tired.
You freedom? Yeah.
No,
it can be exhausting.
One thing.
I get that. My Pisces, I'm a Pisces rising, which means that like it's very easy for me. Like we're Pisces, like swimmers, moody, dreamy, like big dreams, all that shit. And I very much just like flow in and out of things. I also have ADHD, so really easy for me to like pick up and drop and pick up and drop. But it can get overwhelming and exhausting when you have so many options and you are attracted to those options, whether that's in love or life or sex or whatever. Yeah. And you're like, but I want to do that, but I want to do that, but I want to do that, but I want to do that. I do think LA at least is a very conducive place, and being a creative is conducive to that because it does allow us a little bit more freedom to try out a bunch of different things and see what sticks and, forgive ourselves when it doesn't. But that was a lesson that took me a while to figure out too. But I had to just be like, oh, I didn't fail at anything. I actually just tried something that I wanted to do and it doesn't feel good. So I stopped. It wasn't giving me what I thought it would. And I won't do it. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. That's okay, man.
You figured it out.
Yeah. But it takes a long time to figure that stuff out. And I think astrology really helps you give yourself permission,
Yeah. But sexually, I got really tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tired myself out.
There's also sexuality can be really fucking exhausting. And relationships are really fucking exhausting because you are figuring yourself out and managing yourself. And no one knows what a clue, we don't know what we're doing. And you're trying to figure out the other person out. And they're doing the same thing. And then together, you're trying to figure out what is this unit. Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it also feels like really like uncomfortable to be seen at first.
Yeah.
Like I think eventually it felt like deep into a relationship it can feel good to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes like in my path, like when I've had a relationship and then we've, you know, not spoken for a while, or so break up, not speak for a while, and then like have a conversation or like see each other, it can be nice to like catch up and be like, oh yeah, like them reflect things that they saw about you at the time that then like they're like, I'm glad that this happened for you because you were talking about this thing, or like something like that.
Yeah.
Or you can like, or even just like you've always like, I think for me, maybe this is just a personal experience, but it's really nice for someone to, sometimes it's nice to catch up with an ex because they can be like, you always talked about that, or you always seemed interested in that. And it's like that validating to be like, okay, this isn't just like to what you were saying before. Like, it's not just something I picked up, tried out, and then put, and then was like, oh, this is like, what am I doing? It's kind of like, there are certain things where it's like, yeah, no, I've been drawn to this thing.
Yeah.
And that's like a part of what my life journey is. And like this person from a way back when I felt more, you know, as you get older, like you just get pulled in so many different directions. Like when you're young and someone knows you then intimately, it's like them being like, yeah, that's who you were at like a more core level.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, I feel like that's really relieving to hear, or like validating, and it can be, yeah.
It is. It is such a beautiful thing and such a gift. I've moved around a lot, so I have people that I don't really talk to often or all the time, like maybe once a year, once every few years or something. And it's similar to friends as well, like any intimate relationship. It's so interesting to reconnect with one of those people that knew me so many lifetimes ago. I feel like I had friends that like a decade ago would joke that I was 60 years old. And just because I've had like so many different lifetimes and iterations, and then to just be like, oh yeah, no, like this is who you've always been, or just reflecting anything back from so long ago. I actually had a friend that had a beautiful experience. This is another person that I reconnected with. She was my ex-girlfriend that we were really good friends. We dated for a little while. Then I moved to New Zealand pretty much. And so we haven't spoken really that much in like, I don't know, for many years. We haven't like really spoken. But we recently just kind of reconnected. She's going through some stuff. And so that's been really nice in and of itself. But she recently went back to her home country and wound up meeting up with her best friend from when she was 13 years old.
Whoa.
And had like this extraordinary experience. Like she texted me one night, she's like, what do you think about soulmates?
Wow.
And I was like, well, that's way too much for a text, but I don't think that there's only one. And I don't think that it's intrinsically tied to sexuality. And she's like, I knew you would say that. That's why I asked you. But, you know, like here are these two humans that
the feminine urge to ask the person that's going to give you the answer you want to hear. It's like, I knew you were going to say that. That's what I wanted to hear. Thanks. I'm going to go do that thing.
Thank you for validating me. But, you know, it's true. I think we have these ideas because, again, media, of this like big grand soulmate, and they're your love of the life, and they're going to be with you forever and ever and ever. And I just don't feel that way. But I loved this experience that she shared with me about someone that she knew when she was a child, best friends in a different country as children. And now they've reconnected 30 years later.
Wow.
Like, what? And they're just like this. And they've tried to connect over the years before, I think. And like, maybe it was just like a hit or miss. Like they were in different countries, even when they were visiting home, whatever. But just her story of them like reconnecting and like how close of a bond, like they're both kind of freaking out. And it's like, but no, like soulmates are a thing and people come in and out of your lives. And it is going to be super validating to be reconnected with somebody who knew you, especially as a child, because it's the nostalgia and it's the innocence and it's before most of our trauma, not all, but a good deal of it, you know, it's hopefully, yeah. It's so interesting.
It's before you start getting all the like hopefully it's like before you start really like putting on the baggage and the defenses and just like are a little more like open to your letting your spirit out.
And our beliefs are built, and this, ties right back into sexuality and everything we know and believe about sexuality. It's from first our origin house, family, where whatever that may be, and the messages that they're giving and the facial expressions and the body language and all of that. And then it's the media, and it's any religious or any organizations that we're a part of.
Yeah.
And that's like your baseline as a child. But then as you age, it's now all of your experiences and the layering of all of these messages. So it's, our beliefs are just like, they're happening to us, and we don't even know that it's happening to us. So it's so interesting as we grow, like just everything that's changing for us. And then to, again, like reconnect with someone who knew us before all of those beliefs were built. I mean, man, we saw so much of that over the pandemic when you're like, you believe in what? We went to college together and you seem pretty chill.
I think there should be just a pass for everyone. The pandemic was just my friends, the way within my friend group, like close friends, the way everyone responded so differently. It's just like just a snapshot of like, nobody know, and everyone's scared. And I don't know. I was like, just let people say whatever they want.
It was wild.
Just let everyone behave however they want. Like, we're all really sick now mentally.
Oh my God.
Like,
the trauma. Oh, hi, Mom. Should we have her come on?
Yeah, we could. She would love that, honestly. She would like it too much. That's why I'm not going to do it.
My parents are coming here next week. They would not come on this show, but I should make that.
You should trick them.
I should trick
them. Be like, it's a different show.
It's a different show. Oh, no. So my mom gets on us about saying fuck all the time. She doesn't think that we should use such language because it's trashy or whatever. It's like, and then all of us are you fucking kidding me? It's really funny when it happens. But I was like, oh yeah, I'm starting this podcast. I'm like,
you're from New York.
I'm from New York. Yeah.
The city.
This just outside of the city, like suburbs of the city.
Yeah.
She grew up in Queens. She's from Scotland, but she grew up in Queens. My dad is from Israel and moved to the city. Scotland. Israel. Yeah. Whoa. I know. I'm a weird fucking mix.
That is a crazy mix.
I know. There is no box for me.
Yeah.
Finally, they did add Middle Eastern. So now there's like, now I feel better like on censuses because I can say like Middle Eastern and white. But it was real weird growing up. But yeah, when I told him, go ahead.
Sorry. I did my like 23andMe, and I had like, it's like a lot of, I'm mixed. My mom is Black and my dad is white. But my mom's family is like, they were slaves. So it's like, we've been here a long time. And my dad's family, like, too, also not slaves, but here a long time. So complicated. But I did my 23andMe, and it's like a lot of Nigerian and like a lot of Irish. And I'm like, well, that's why I'm a bad attitude.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I have an attitude problem.
No, I get that, because the Scots, they're feisty. They're not like the Brits, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
You don't want to fuck with a Scot. And then I have like an Israeli dad, and then I'm from New York, and I'm a Leo. It's just and my house.
You got a lot of energy. Let's put it that way.
So much energy. My whole house was like a whole bunch of fire signs. And then there's my sister who was like, she's 13 years older than me. She is an air sign. So it was kind of like a whole bunch of fire signs, building and building. And she would just go.
And blow out the fire, or like
fume it.
Yeah. Just be like,
just going to leave this here.
Yeah. Drop the bomb.
Yeah.
Light the fuse and leave the room.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I'm curious, and you don't need to answer this if you don't feel comfortable, because that's how we roll here. Okay. How do you feel like having parents of different races played into your sexual upbringing, if at all? Like, do you feel like that had any impact?
No.
Good. Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we didn't talk about it in the house.
Yeah.
At all. So yeah, I don't think that was a thing.
Yeah, it was just generationally, because we didn't talk about it in my house either.
It just was like, what would we say? Like, what would even be said? They just had nothing to say about it.
Yeah. Did they ever Like when you got your period, did your mom talk to you about that at all? Do you remember?
Yeah, when I got my period, yeah. Again, I got it pretty late. So I was like at that point like pretty depressed about not having it. And so
Yeah.
my mom would have to talk to me about like she's like, you know what, it'll happen. I didn't get my period and like my boobs weren't growing and my mom was like, it's gonna happen for you. Like, don't worry about it. It is gonna happen. She was like, I didn't have boobs till who knows when. She's like huge, nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, okay. She said, and then I like saw, like, found pictures of her when she was like really young, just like huge boobs.
Like,
at
what
a
are you
really
talking
young age.
about?
I was like, okay, so you just lied to me.
Yeah.
She was like, I just want to make you feel better. I was like, well,
Thanks, Tits
they
McGee.
didn't grow in, and I did get my period, but only like kind of. It comes like it's like barely around, which is something honestly. Also, one cool thing about astrology is my astrologer told me that.
Really?
Yeah, again, to like the point of just like, let's just like, it gives you like a way to just be like, oh, that's just a thing about me.
Yeah.
I don't need to like be so like wrapped up in whatever the feelings are around me not being like, on the month, like what I think it should be.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, you probably like have a kind of like irregular cycle. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. It
Like,
really can be a gift.
Great, good. Because
Yeah.
that's just, it makes me feel like, that there's just a little bit more, like, I can give a little more grace to myself in that way. Like, it's just irregular. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't talk about bioindividuality, but that's the fact that, like, probably from your dad, but like bioindividuality is that every single body is going to behave differently.
Yeah.
That's why the same person can't be on the same diet, or like a bunch of people, like everyone's going to react differently on medication, on supplements, on this and that. And especially when you have people that are like, just try this workout or just try this diet. It's like, no.
Like, there's no way.
Scam. That's a scam. Because if you knew about health and wellness, then you would know that there is bioindividuality. But that is, I mean, even within sexuality, it's all fluid and it's all desire and all of that. I mean, we have this expectation, especially in partnerships, that both partners are going to have the same levels of desire. And that is actually wild to expect that two completely different people with completely different bodies and experiences and brains are going to always align with how much they want to engage in sexual activity, what that sexual activity is, and how long they want it to last, and when they want it to happen, and the frequency and all of that. Like, when you really break it down, then you're like, wait a minute, how would I possibly expect that to be a thing?
Yeah.
Like,
it's too, well, I also think, like, even outside of just like when you're partnering with someone, the expectations of like, there's so much expectation of like everything lining up.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you just have to be like, no, like, I don't know, just like, well, a lot of stuff isn't.
Yeah.
And you just try to find someone that you like being around, regardless of like what the differences are.
Yeah. You like being around, that you can talk to, that you can have these open conversations with, because that's the one thing that's missing. If you can communicate and you can talk through all of this stuff to yourself and to your partner, then you're in this position now that you can have conversations. You can talk about boundaries. You can talk about what's working, what's not working, what you like and what you don't like. And then it's up to the other person to either be receptive of that information and be like, you know what? I can't come to the table for this stuff. Like, this is the stuff that doesn't work for me. This sucks, but I gotta go. You deserve someone who can come to the table with you.
Are you like I feel like the word I want to use is like essentialist, in that, like, because I was just thinking like, but there should be people allowed to not communicate.
Yeah.
Like, are you like, but if neither of you want to communicate and that's the relationship that works for you, do you believe that that's good too?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're allowed to not communicate, but you can't expect that you're going to be engaging in a healthy relationship, because it requires communication. You have to be able to talk about what's going on for yourself, or be alone. Like, that's okay too. You don't have to be in a partnership, but in order to be partnered with someone, whether you're monogamous or non-monogamous, it requires conversation. Even if it's just conversations around testing, conversations around how you're feeling, around what do you want to have dinner tonight? Like, it's all conversation and communication. And that's, I think, I haven't started like building classes to teach yet outside of the stuff that I've done with sensuality and pole. But like, I just keep thinking like, I think I need to be teaching classes on communication because it's so hard and so scary and we're not taught how to do it. But regardless of romantic, sexual, or platonic or business relationships, we have to be able to communicate. It's the key to us being okay with ourselves and the environment around us. You can't control everything, but you can at least talk about it.
Yeah.
So, but you know, that's a big fucking step for most people. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I have to work on that actively all the time.
I mean, I think we all do.
It's just hard.
It is. I think especially as sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts. It's not, but
communication's hard. Sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts.
I've shot a good amount of commercials for them, so you know, sure, they've sponsored my life in ways by hiring me to be on commercial shoots.
Okay. Wow, that's like celeb status to me.
Oh, I've worked in production for like 20 years. So I've worked
I'm just a big Dunkin' fan.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I did a commercial with like Eli
America
Manning, like
Dunkin'.
I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't know.
Really fun.
It was fun. Yeah, that was a fun brand. We didn't have donuts though.
Okay, communication.
Like totally not how it works. Anyway, communication.
I'm sorry.
No, we like veer. We like to veer off.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See what came up for you? Oh my gosh.
Let's move away from that.
Let me distract with humor, which is what so many people do. Listen, I used to have to write letters to my boyfriends or like, you know, this was like, I remember definitely one of my earlier relationships. Neither one of us could talk. And so we would like write a letter to each other. This is like, I mean, we had email, but this was like 2005.
Yeah. Were you in school at the time? Because notes are so big.
Yeah, I was out of school, but notes. I have a whole box of notes right now. Yes. They're only the ones that I received. So I'm like, damn, I want the ones that I sent. But they're like a whole bunch of like for my best friends or whatever. I have a shoebox that my parents had in their garage.
We would do, you write your letter
and you fold it up.
Note, and then you fold it up, but then you give it to your friend, but then there's space. So then they write back to you, and then you pass it back. So you're passing the same note back and forth.
Oh, I wish I had.
And
that.
So I have like dialogue basically.
That is so
between
good.
People. Yeah,
that's great. But we did grow up on notes, which you know, texting makes sense for us. But we used to write each other letters, and then we would be able to come to the table and talk about it. That is a great way to open up communication if you feel uncomfortable.
Did you make that up?
I mean, I didn't learn that anywhere. I just did it.
Wow.
I was like, I can't get these words out. I can't sit here and actually talk to you about this, but these are things that I am feeling that I really need you to know. So I would just write him a letter, and then, you know, and then like the communication lines were open. So then we could talk about it.
Yeah. It's nice too. I feel very strongly about words and picking them correctly.
Yeah.
And so writing is really a stronger tool for me sometimes than speaking.
Yeah.
One problem with that is it can become a little too like perfectionistic.
Yes.
And some of my emotion gets lost.
Yeah. You miss the nuance in writing and the body language and
But it also for me becomes very like, here are my needs.
Yeah.
It becomes very Jonah Hill.
Yeah,
like, here are my boundaries. No relationships with chaotic women.
Which is like those are not boundaries. That's literally control, and most abuse happens in controlling situations like that. Just throwing that out there. But that's why it's really important to take it out of the written communication and into the in-person communication. I mean, I also recently had like multiple very terrible, horrible breakups with a person that like we were just fucking emailing. I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous, and like I don't know how many times I need to explain this shit to you, but also like talking wasn't really like accessible to him or whatever. And it was just like, whatever, this is fucking ridiculous. And as and as Virgo moons, like, listen, bitch, I'm gonna line it out real fucking clear.
No,
and I
it's
will be
clear.
like, I will.
There's no.
Yeah, I will be very honest, and I will try to be like, oh God, somebody said something to me where it's like, it was like I can't remember what it was, but it was like something with like, I was kind, but also like vicious because I was just honest, but I was doing it in a kind way or something like that. But like that, it's problematic because you're going back and forth and like, you're not getting anywhere because the person or whatever, like you have to talk in person. It's so important that you actually have the talk in person and just, not everything is going to be resolved. We can't assume that everything is going to be resolved because you have to sit on it too,
Yeah.
But it's more about like, we just have to open up those lines of communication. And none of us were ever taught that. And most of us were raised by parents who really don't know how to do that.
It's confusing to me now as an adult because I'm like, were my parents trying to communicate with me and I wasn't open to it? But it does feel like, kind of setting up an environment where it's kind of hostile to talk about your emotions and then being like, but how do you feel? It's like, wait, I know this is a trap.
Yeah.
I know, I'm pretty sure this is a trap and I'm not falling for it.
But you're also the child, so it's not your responsibility to lead any of those conversations.
But what I mean is like, they would definitely come into my room and be like, what's the problem with you?
And you'd be like, I don't know, I hate you, slam. I hate you, slam.
Yeah.
Get out of here, slam.
I was an only child, so I wasn't allowed to behave that way. But but emotionally, that's where I was at.
Yeah, I wouldn't have dared do that.
No.
And I was not an only child. I just wouldn't have dared.
No, not in my family. That would not have gone over well.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, my mom is Black, so we are not doing stuff like that.
She wouldn't have that.
No. So, but yeah, I think. But they were kind of like asking me what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, they were checking in on me, and I was very loved. But I just, think the only way I was seeing them express their emotions, it was through kind of passive aggression and jokes.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know. I wasn't, even though they were like, okay, well, like, what's going on? I don't feel like they had really modeled the behavior to me in a way that I would be able to then like be like, okay, how do you get serious?
Yeah.
And like really talk about your feelings. And I was very serious. I'm very serious.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can tell. Very serious.
Very serious. It's very serious business. But, it is...
Taurus sun,
oh,
Capricorn rising.
Oh, my
Virgo
God.
I'm
you are very, all very serious.
Yeah, I'm actually very serious.
Wow. That's why you balance it out with comedy, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know where that comes from.
I love that. Drama. I love it. But yeah, I mean, and I really think that we are the first generation of humans that are moving the needle forward in terms of learning this stuff, communicating, taking care of our mental health, trying our best not to hold things in and bottle things in. Yeah. We're not always great at it because, again, so few of us have healthy examples around us that we grew up with. So all of our formative everything was by people who their formative everything was not great, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that we even got sex education, I don't think, well, there are definitely people that are younger than my parents that I want to talk to, but like, I would like to be speaking to people in their 70s about this and like, what was your education like? And what was your sex education like? Mm-hmm. There's no way my mom would do this podcast.
Come on.
It'd be great. I'm going to have to ask them.
Just be like, you owe it to me.
You owe it to me for birthing me into this world.
Yeah.
My sister might do it. She's coming here too. So maybe I could probably get her to do it. That would be, she's great. That would be a fun conversation.
You should definitely try to get your mom to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should definitely attempt.
I will.
Yeah.
Mark my words. I will ask her.
I will ask her.
I will ask her.
I think trick. trick into doing
I just want to do a fun little episode.
Yeah, it's just a mom and daughter getting to know each other, and then just like,
what did you learn about sex?
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
How do you suck a dick?
What do you do with the balls? Segue, it's time for a pop quiz! Yay! Everyone loves a pop quiz.
With mom or with me?
With you.
Oh no. Oh, God, no.
Don't worry, no one is expected to actually know any of these answers, so do not expect to.
Okay. Is it like on Love Island where they're like percentages? Have you seen that where they're like what percentage of UK 20 to 25-year-olds say that they're having an orgasm? And they have to know percentages.
Oh my God.
They're all percentage-based questions, and I'm like, they're just guessing. But
the last question,
know the percentage.
Well, the last one I asked, it was a percentage. It's about condoms, so that one kind of made sense, and they were pretty close. What is endometriosis?
Oh, okay. That's that thing that Lena Dunham has, and it's when you get. I don't know what's going on inside, but what I do know is that in your uterus area, there's like something bad's happening and you're in a lot of pain, and sometimes sex can hurt and your cramps are really bad and your period can be really bad, and it can affect your fertility.
Yeah. So what's actually happening inside the body is that the endometrium, which is the lining of the uterus, it's the tissue lining of the uterus, is outside of the uterus. So the same way out there in the streets, she's in the streets, she's, raw dog in the body and shit, she's like out there in the bloodstream. So what happens is that the tissue lining, always use protection. The tissue lining is thickening and it's shedding the same way as it does inside the uterus for menstruation, but it has nowhere to go.
Ooh.
So it's fucked.
What happens?
So that's why it goes into the body.
Do you get cysts? Oh.
Yeah, you get cysts, you get sick. That's why there's a lot of pelvic pain. You can go to a doctor and you can get it treated, but a lot of people go untreated for a very, very long amount of time because we belittle the pain of people who have uteruses and we don't believe them. Yeah. So that's where
because you get used to discomfort and pain.
Yeah. And
we just I think even the women are probably tolerating a higher level of pain.
Absolutely we are. I mean, studies have shown that over and over and over again. Yeah. So it's a combination of us believing like, oh, well, this is just what it is. I just have a bad period. Yeah. And many doctors just not believing people. Yeah. They're not necessarily trying to do harm, but it's part of the medical industrial complex, That's a problem.
Is this a new thing?
Endometriosis?
Yeah.
No.
It's old.
It's
been happening for a long time. They just didn't know about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been happening for as long as uteruses have existed because it's just body stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a good question because I don't know historically, like if numbers have gone up or when they really started treating them. Yeah. That's definitely something I'll look into. I'll do like a little Substack on that because it's a really good question to be asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might not be knowable.
Well, again, I think that
because if they just started diagnosing, I mean, these things, it's like you don't know until,
Yeah. And
I feel like I feel like that's happening with like people on the autism spectrum too. It's just like the diagnosis is more available to people, and so like there are more people that are diagnosed with it, but it's because it's being diagnosed to begin with.
Exactly. It's because people are now paying attention to it. And I think with endometriosis, it would be something similar where, people may have been dying and just not knowing, what was going on.
Curious about it because it feels like also could be something that is like increasing based on environmental.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Or just like, I'm wondering what that is.
Yeah. It's a good question. It's a good question to ask. Yeah. Was there anything that we didn't cover that you thought about that you wanted to?
That's the end of the pop quiz.
That's the end of the pop. It's just one question.
I won it.
Yay!
Oh my God. I was so scared there was going to be more questions.
No, it's just one tiny little baby question.
Yeah, no, that's, is there anything that I wanted to cover that I didn't cover about sex? You know what I was wondering is like, So you've dabbled in gay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering like how you what is the question that I want to ask surrounding this? Is like what would you say the differences are between dating men or dating women?
I haven't dated that many women. Only one, seriously. I think women, I think I'm a bad person to ask, but I think that women go in a little bit like we go in a little bit harder love,
Yeah.
like the emotional side of things
Yeah.
sometimes is like a little bit like more, how do I want to say this, like in my experience anyway, a little bit more all encompassing and like,
Yeah.
even though there's no balls involved, balls to the walls right away.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
and I think to a degree, maybe that has to do with the way that women are raised with fairy tales and all this shit, and men are raised with like, you know, procreation and sex. And like, maybe that has to do with that. I don't know.
There's also way more communication. So
way
it could
more
have to do with
communication.
that too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
like
exhausting.
the way that each gender, speaking to specifically to the binary here, of course there's more than just two and more than just two experiences, but speaking to the binary here, I think how we're raised just indicates how we're going to be in relationship and how we treat the person that we're dating in relationship and what their gender is. Like, I think women might be different with women than they are with men.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder if that's changing with this like younger generation, because it does kind of feel like the way that men are dating now, like younger men are dating, is more in that way.
Yeah. I think that
because there's more communication and more like
gender fluidity as well,
and more like acceptance of emotion and like being able to communicate and get in touch with that.
I think it's going to be really interesting when the kids who are between like 10 and 20 right now, when they're in their 40s, I think that's going to be a really interesting time for all of us. I think we're going to be hopefully in a much more expansive place, a much more accepting space, and a place where humans can just human. And you can show up in the way that feels good and authentic to you, regardless of what your gender is. You know, I think that obviously there are plenty of people that are going to be hanging on to these stereotypes for many years to come. But I think more and more the younger generation they understand a lot faster that gender is just a social construct and that you don't have to behave like a dude or like a chick or whatever, because literally that means fucking nothing. And if you look at history and gender expression throughout history, you can see plainly the shit, it doesn't fucking mean anything. Like the roles and the costumes and makeup and hair and like all of that stuff. So, you know, I think I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for a better time.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like a more like kind of like, because sometimes I'm like, everything just feels like it's merging. Sometimes I like that and sometimes I don't like that. I'm like, well, but
you know, the pendulum always has to swing like one way before it goes the other way. So I think my hope is that throughout time, people can show up in the way that feels good and authentic to them. And then you find that other person that you're like, you know, you can be attracted to masculinity, but that can be carried by a person with a vulva. You know, like that's it. That doesn't necessarily have to do anything with your bits. So, you know, it's just like,
as someone who in the past, my type was lesbian, who's about 15 months away from being non-binary.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no, I know. I know that type.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm hopeful for the future.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Ellington Wells. They can find me on Twitter, although I don't really go on there at all, but at Draw Different. Sometimes I think about going on there and being like edgy. like get on there and say something that people don't want to hear, but then I'm like, I don't have anything like that to say. And then I'm trying to start a YouTube.
Yay!
At Ellington Wells. I want to be a vlogger.
Yeah.
I'm about to make a move to New York.
Ooh.
And hopefully going to document that. It's kind of like this podcast.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I just want to get something going.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But, hopefully that happens. I have a couple of vlogs out. So if you want to go there and follow me, I would love that.
Do the things.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.
If you like this podcast, which obviously you did, go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Please help get the word out, because this is just a little baby podcast and I have a lot of people I want to talk to, and these conversations are super fun. So send it to your friends and, say cool shit about us. That's awesome. I got these little stickers that are on the table here. I'm going to get more, but these are like the first run of fun little stickers. They're I don't know, that's fun. So I'm just going to start throwing those around. Also,
I'm going to put one on my Nalgene.
Yeah, put it on your Nalgene. Why are you trying to update the software right now? I'm doing an outro. Anyway, also, I am the Los Angeles host of the Distinguished Gentleman's Drive, which is a yearly drive where people all around the world get into their pre-1980s classic cars and go on luxurious drives, dress dapper of the times, and raise money for Movember, which does research for men's mental health, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. So the information will be in the show notes if you want to donate, if you want to register. It's worldwide, so we're everywhere in the world. If you're listening and you have a pre-1980s car, you can register, or you can start a drive yourself, but you can donate. And Babes and Classics is my Instagram for all of my car shit, but again, that's all going to be in the show notes. So thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.